A very warm and pleasant good morning to all my dear students of class 12 group 2. I welcome you to the 6th session of the chapter Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. In the last 5 sessions we discussed about number 1, pre-fertilization events that include gamete formation and transfer of gametes. Number 2, fertilization. In angiosperm, fertilization is double fertilization. And number 3 is post-fertilization events. So all those events which occur after the formation of zygote, that is after fertilization, are collectively known as post-fertilization events. So it includes number 1, endosperm development, number 2, embryo development, number 3, the development of an ovule into a seed, and number 4, development of fruit from the ovary. Okay, so the first two, that is endosperm development and embryo development, we have already discussed at length in the last session. So today we are going to focus on seeds and fruits. So under the heading seeds, we are going to discuss the formation of a seed, structure of a seed, types of seeds, seed dormancy, seed viability, and parthenocarpic seeds. And then we will go to fruits. Okay. So first let us talk about seeds. So the question is, what are seeds? We keep on talking about seeds, that seeds of this plant, seeds of that plant, etc. Now what we actually mean by a seed, or what is a seed? Okay, so a seed is a very small dehydrated, that is it is hard. Okay, a seed is a small dehydrated part of a plant which contains an embryo that grows into a new plant of the same kind. Okay, so I repeat that a seed is a small dehydrated part of a plant formed from a fertilized ovule which contains an embryo that can give rise to a plant of the same type. Okay, so that is what is a seed. Or in simple words, we can say a seed is a fertilized ovule. Now, during the formation of seed from a fertilized ovule, certain changes occur in the ovule. Okay, when an ovule gets fertilized and then subsequently it forms a seed, several changes occur in the structure of the seed ovule. Okay, so we'll discuss these changes one by one. Okay, so what are the changes that occur in an ovule after it is fertilized towards formation of a seed? So number 1, the development of seed coat. Number 1, development of seed coat. Number 2, development of zygote into an embryo. Number 2, development of zygote into an embryo. Number 3, development of endosperm. Number 3 is development of the endosperm. Okay. So now coming to the first one, that is the seed coat. Okay, so the outer protective cover of an ovule, it is known as integument. The outer protective covers of an ovule are known as integuments. After fertilization, the integuments become hard and forms the seed coat. Okay. The outer protective covering of an ovule, they are known as integuments. After fertilization, the integuments become hard and form the seed coat. The seed coat protects the embryo present inside a seed. Okay, the seed coat, it protects the embryo present inside the seed. Now what happens? The integuments, if you recall, the entire ovule is covered by generally 2 layers of integuments, except at one place, which is known as the micropyle. So the pore where integuments are absent, it is known as the micropyle. So now the integuments form the seed coat and micropyle remain as such. The micropyle persists as a small pore in the seed. Okay. Now what are the functions of micropyle in a seed? Okay. In an ovule you have seen it is the place through which the pollen tube enters into an ovule. Okay. Now what is the function of micropyle in a mature seed? Okay. Number 1. It helps in absorption of water at the time of seed germination, because seed coat is very hard and sometimes completely impermeable also. So therefore what happens? The micropyle helps in absorption of water at the time of seed germination. Second, it facilitates entry of oxygen into the seed. It facilitates or helps entry of oxygen into the seed at the time of seed germination. Okay, so both these events are very important for the activity of the seed. So the micropyle, 2 functions of micropyle in a mature seed. Number 1, it helps in absorption of water at the time of seed germination, and number 2, it helps in entry of oxygen into the seed at the time of seed germination. Okay. Now the second is the development of the zygote into an embryo. Okay, the zygote, it develops into an embryo, and we discussed at length that this process of development of an embryo from a zygote, it is known as embryogeny. Okay, now what happens? The seed coat encloses an embryo which is differentiated into a plumule, a radicle, and 1 or 2 cotyledons. Okay, the embryo, it is enclosed by the seed coat. It is surrounded by the seed coat from all the sides except at the micropyle. Okay, now the embryo consists of plumule and embryonal axis. Okay, the embryo consists of an embryonal axis, that consists of a plumule, future shoot, a radicle, the future root, and 1 or 2 cotyledons. Okay, now in monocots there is only 1 cotyledon. We talked about in the last session, in monocots have only 1 cotyledon, whereas dicots have 2 cotyledons. In dicots, the cotyledons are generally swollen and thick or fleshy structures. In dicots, the cotyledons are swollen and thick, swollen and thick or fleshy structures which store food. Okay, so cotyledons, in dicot plants, cotyledons are swollen, they are thick, they are fleshy and they store food. Now why do they store food? The food stored in the cotyledons is used for the development of the embryo into a seedling until and unless it becomes nutritionally independent. Okay? So when a seedling becomes independent, when it grows green leaves, it starts photosynthesizing. Okay? When green leaves appear in a plant, in a germinating plant, then what happens? It starts photosynthesis and it prepares its own food. Okay? But till then, when the embryo is growing into a seedling, initially in the initial phase, okay, where from they derive nutrients for the growth? It is from the cotyledons. So the cotyledons, they store food and provide it for the initial development of the embryo into a seedling when the seed germinates. Okay. Now the point of attachment, just above the point of attachment of the cotyledons to the embryonal axis, it is known as, the part is known as epicotyle, and just below the point of attachment of the cotyledons to the embryonal axis is the hypocotyle. So we have already discussed that. So then next we come to endosperm development. Okay, so the next is the endosperm development. So endosperm development we have already talked about in detail. Okay, so endosperm development, which part of the fertilized ovule develops into an endosperm? It is the primary endosperm cell, okay, which divides repeatedly and forms a triploid tissue known as the endosperm. The endosperm contains nutrients which are required for the development of the embryo, okay, from the zygote. Okay, so now what happens? Generally, the endosperm is completely consumed during seed formation. Okay, at the time of, during seed formation, when the embryo is growing, at that time what happens? The embryo development requires a lot of food and the endosperm is completely consumed or it is digested. Okay, the endosperm, it is formed from the primary endosperm cell. The primary endosperm cell undergoes repeated divisions to form a multicellular triploid tissue known as the endosperm. Endosperm stores food. This food is needed for the development of the embryo from a zygote. Okay. So during this, what happens? Endosperm is generally consumed, completely consumed. But there are seeds in which what happens? Embryo development does not consume the entire endosperm. So the seeds contain some endosperm. The seeds contain some copious endosperm. Okay. So on the basis of this, whether the seeds contain endosperm or not, we have two categories of seeds. Whether endosperm is present or endosperm is absent. On the basis of this, we categorize seeds into two types. Number one, albuminous seeds. Albuminous seeds means endospermous seeds. So albuminous seeds have endosperm. Examples, we have wheat, maize, barley, castor, sunflower. These are endospermous seeds. Okay, wheat, maize, barley, sunflower, castor. Okay, these are endospermous seed. And there are seeds which do not contain any endosperm. That means during the process of embryo development, the entire endosperm is consumed. Okay, so those seeds which do not contain any endosperm tissue, they are known as X-albuminous or non-albuminous seeds. Okay, example, pea, gram, groundnut, pulses, beans. These are all non-endospermous seeds or non-albuminous seeds. Okay, then what happens? Just as the endosperm is consumed during embryo development, the nucellus surrounding the embryo sac. Nucellus, you remember? This is the parenchymatous tissue which surrounds the embryo sac. Okay. So what happens? The nucellus is also consumed during embryo development. Okay. Just like endosperm, nucellus which surrounds the embryo sac. Okay. It is also consumed during embryo development. Okay. But there are certain plant species are there in which what happens, the nucellus remains as a very thin layer surrounding the endosperm. Okay, in some plants, okay, what happens, the nucellus is not completely consumed during embryo development. It persists as a very thin layer and surrounds the endosperm. Okay, so such seeds are known as perispermous seeds. And the persistent, the remaining leftover, the residual endosperm in the seed is known as perisperm. The residual or leftover nucellus in the seed is known as perisperm. Okay, examples, black pepper, then beet. Okay, examples are black pepper and beet. Okay, so now what happens, as the seed matures, it starts dehydrating. Okay, at the ovules forms the seed, right? That means the seed starts maturing, it starts dehydrating, and a mature seed is highly dehydrated and contains only about 10 to 15% moisture. The moisture content of a mature seed is only 10 to 15%, and when the seed is completely mature, at that time what happens? The metabolism slows down. Okay. Now the next topic is seed dormancy. Okay, the next topic is seed dormancy. Now once the seed is formed, it may or may not germinate immediately. Okay, once a seed is formed, it may or may not germinate immediately. Okay, so generally what happens, the seeds pass through a phase of inactivity. When they remain inactive and they do not germinate even if the environmental conditions are favorable. So this is known as seed dormancy. Okay, so dormancy we can define that it is the state of inactivity of a seed when it fails to germinate even if the environmental conditions are favorable for active growth. Okay, so seed dormancy is the period of inactivity of a mature seed during which it does not germinate, even if the environmental conditions are favorable. Okay, so seed dormancy can be defined as a state of inactivity of a seed when it fails to germinate even if the environmental conditions are favorable for active growth. So that we call as the seed dormancy. Okay, then next is, after seed dormancy we have seed viability. Okay, the next point is seed viability. Seed viability, the ability of the seeds to retain the power of germination over a period of time. So what is seed viability? The ability of the seeds to retain the power of germination over a period of time. And viability of seeds, it differs from species to species. Some seeds may remain viable only for few weeks, whereas other seeds may remain viable for years, and even we know of seeds which have remained viable for thousands of years. Okay, so the viability of seed, okay, this differs from species to species. So what is seed viability? It is the ability of the seeds to retain the power of germination over a period of time. It varies from plant to plant. Okay, sometimes it can be only a few weeks. In some plants, the seeds may remain viable for years or even thousands of years. For example, that is for lupin. Okay, for lupin, that is Lupinus arcticus. Okay, lupine, the seeds of lupine, 10,000 years old viable seeds of lupine, that is Lupinus arcticus, have been recovered from the Arctic tundra, and these seeds, they germinated, produced plant, flowered and bore fruits also. Okay, the seeds of lupinus. Okay, so 10,000 years old viable seeds of Lupinus arcticus were found from Arctic tundra, and these seeds, they not only germinated, they produced plants, they bore flowers, as well as fruits were also formed. And the second example is viable seeds of date palm. Okay, Phoenix dactylifera. Okay, viable seeds of date palm, that is Phoenix dactylifera, were excavated from the palace of King Herod near Dead Sea. Okay, so they were excavated. So about 2,000 years old viable seeds of date palm, botanical name Phoenix dactylifera, were excavated from the palace of King Herod near Dead Sea. Okay, then next we come to the advantages of seed habit. Okay, what are the advantages of seed habit? Okay, so 5 advantages. Okay, there are 5 advantages which are given in your book, and these are the major ones. Number 1, seed habit is dependable. Okay, seed formation, it is a very dependable process, because prior to seed formation, what happens? Pollination and fertilization. So I told you in the beginning when we were studying about pollination that bryophytes and pteridophytes, they are not widely distributed. Why? Because they depend on water for pollination, that is gamete transfer, fertilization and spore formation, spore germination. Okay, bryophytes and pteridophytes, they depend on water for gamete transfer, fertilization and spore germination. Therefore, what happens? They are not found in dry habitats or habitats where water is not available throughout the year. Okay, so they are not widely distributed. But what we find that angiosperms are found in all types of habitats. Why? Because pollination and fertilization in endosperm is not dependent on water. Therefore, seed formation is very, very dependable. Seeds are generally formed in angiosperms. Okay, the chances of seed formation is much, much higher in the flowering plants or the other seed bearing plants. Okay. Second, what happens? The seeds have evolved different strategies for dispersal to distant habitats. Okay, seeds, they have evolved different strategies, mechanisms by which they move from one place to another place, that is one habitat to another habitat. Okay, and why this is important? This is important because if the seeds fail to disperse, then what will happen? Overcrowding will take place. Okay, and overcrowding leads to competition between the different species or the plants of the same type. Okay, so interspecific or intraspecific competition. Okay, so therefore the seeds, it is observed that the seeds, they have evolved different mechanisms by which they disperse to distant habitats and prevent overcrowding, and hence interspecific and intraspecific competition. Okay. Third, the embryo is well protected inside the seed coat. Okay, the embryo remains well protected inside the hard seed coat. Okay. Fourth, seeds are the final products of sexual reproduction. Therefore, seeds show variation. Okay, so seeds are the final products of sexual reproduction. Therefore, what happens? They carry a number of variations. Okay, and variations are essential for adaptation and better survival of a species. Okay, that you know. And fifth is seed dormancy. Okay, the seeds, most of the seeds, they remain dormant or inactive for a period of time after they are completely formed. Okay, so what is the importance of this? The importance of this is that since they remain dormant, now this ensures that perennation, the seeds can overcome unfavorable conditions. Okay, the seeds overcome unfavorable conditions, and when the conditions become favorable, they again germinate to produce the plants. Apart from that, the seeds can be stored for long periods of time as food, and they can be used when the season is favorable for crop cultivation. Okay, so dormancy has got its advantages. Okay, so dormancy is the period during which the seed remains inactive even when the conditions may be favorable. Okay, now due to this, what happens? The seeds can be stored and they can be used for cultivation of crops. Okay, later then seeds can be stored as a source of food, and sometimes this also helps in perennation under unfavorable conditions. When the conditions are not favorable for germination, the seeds just they remain inactive, and when the conditions become favorable, they again germinate and produce new plants. Okay, so that is about the seeds. Next we come to the fruits. Okay, next is the fruits. So the ovary after fertilization develops into a fruit. Okay, the ovary after fertilization, it develops into a fruit. The wall of the ovary forms the wall of the fruit. Okay, the ovary wall, it forms the wall of the fruit, which is known as the pericarp. Okay, so this is in general. Generally what happens, the ovary after fertilization forms the fruit. But in many cases, it has been observed that parts other than the ovary of a flower, other parts of a flower, okay, than the ovary, okay, parts of the flower other than the ovary also take part in fruit formation. Okay, sometimes in many plants what happens, like you have apple, cashew, okay, so what you find, apple, cashew, etc., then fig, okay, you find that the thalamus or the receptacle, okay, it grows and covers the ovary. Okay, so the thalamus also is the thalamus also takes part in the formation of the fruit. So those fruits which are formed from ovary and other accessory walls of a flower, they are known as false fruits. Whereas those fruits which are formed from the ovary, they are known as the true fruits. Okay, true fruits are formed from the ovary after fertilization. Okay, for example, we have mango, coconut, pea, brinjal, tomato. These are true fruits. And false fruits, they are derived from ovary along with other floral whorls or parts. Okay, for example, apple, cashew, okay, strawberry, these are false fruits. Why? The thalamus or the receptacle, it grows and it covers the ovary, and the thalamus is also used for formation of fruit. So such type of fruits are known as false fruits. Then we next come to the parthenocarpic fruits. Fruits formed without fertilization. See, seed formation and fruit formation. Okay, naturally they occur when fertilization takes place. They occur only after fertilization. But there are instances where what we find that the fruit formation takes place without fertilization. The ovary develops into a fruit without fertilization. So such fruits are seedless because seeds are not formed. Okay, so such seeds are seedless. Okay, they do not have seeds because the ovule, it remains very small and very soft. So seeds are not formed in this type of parthenocarpic fruits. Okay, and the process is, these fruits are known as parthenocarpic fruits and the process is parthenocarpic. For example, banana. Okay, banana, then pineapple. Okay, they produce parthenocarpic fruits, and many citrus fruits, they also produce parthenocarpic fruits naturally. Okay, naturally. Okay, so fruits which are formed without fertilization, okay, they are known as parthenocarpic fruits. They are seedless, they do not contain seeds. So the natural parthenocarpic fruits, example given in your book is banana. That means seedless fruits. Okay, can be produced on a very large scale by application of hormones like auxins and gibberellins. So the fruits that are usually induced this way to form seedless, to remain seedless, like we have grapes, oranges, tomatoes. Okay, so why they are made seedless by application of application of hormones? Because sometimes what happens, the seeds makes the process of the processing of the fruits difficult into different products. So what happens, the seedless fruits are produced by application of hormones like auxins and gibberellins. Okay. So with that we come to the end of this session. That is the 6th session. Now I will give you the questions. Okay, you will write down the answers. Okay, not many questions are there, so you just write down. Number 1, distinguish between albuminous and non-albuminous seeds. Give examples. Number 2, what is perisperm? Name seeds of 2 plants having perisperm. Third, what are the functions of micropyle in a seed? Fourth, what is seed dormancy? What is its advantage? Then fifth, what is pericarp? What is pericarp? Then sixth, distinguish between false and true fruits. Give two examples. Then next one, seventh, what are parthenocarpic fruits? Give one example. Only one example is given in your book, so you will give one example. Then 8, how can we obtain seedless fruits? How can we obtain seedless fruits? Okay, or parthenocarpic fruits artificially. Then 10th, name the oldest viable seed known. Name the oldest viable seed known. Then 11th, write the scientific name of date palm. Write the scientific name of date palm. Okay. So with this we come to the end of this session. Now here in page number 37. Okay, page number 37, you'll come across some diagrams are given here. Okay, the diagrams are here, you can see. So castor, so likewise the bean seed, there is the maize seed, the sunflower. Okay, then there is the apple, transverse section of an apple, and this is the strawberry. This is the longitudinal section of apple, and this is the transverse section. So you can see this part of the fruit is formed by the thalamus. Inside this is the ovary, and these are the seeds. That's it. Within ovarian chambers, these are the seeds. So likewise, this is the strawberry again. So here it is also formed by it's a false fruit formed by the thalamus and the ovary. So here you can see in the longitudinal section, this is the thalamus. This part is the thalamus. This part of the fruit is the thalamus. Then this one, the inside chamber. This is the ovarian part of the ovary, and inside there are the seeds. Okay. So this is the maize seed. Maize seed, you can see this is the scutellum. This endosperm. Okay. That's the cotyledon. Sorry. This is the endosperm. Okay. This is the endosperm, and this shield-like structure. This is the scutellum or the cotyledon. Then here you have got the plumule. Okay. Shoot apex. And it is covered by the coleoptile. Here it is the root, that is the radicle, and root cap, and it is covered by a sheath known as the coleorhiza. Okay, and this layer, this is known as the aleuron layer. This is the aleuron layer. Okay, so this is the castor seed, bean seed. So you can just see the diagrams and do the labelings. You can practice few diagrams if you get time. So I have given you the questions also. So with this we come to the end of the 6th session. Okay. Now in the next session, that is in the 7th session, we will be discussing about the apomictic seeds. That means the seeds which are formed without fertilization. Parthenocarpic fruits. Okay. Fruits formed without fertilization. In the next session, we will discuss how seeds can also be formed without fertilization. That is apomixis. Okay. Okay. So thank you. for being here, and have a nice time, and please try to write down the answers. Okay, if you have any difficulty you can ask me later. Okay.